Hey y'all, welcome back to Cambria's Corner. This is week 2 of the Insight Collaborative Mentorship Program, and this week the theme is the narrative around refugees and forced migration and the way that we use language and the mindsets that we bring into humanitarianism and aid to really just embrace an accompaniment mindset. This video is an interview between me and my dear friend Fady Lawrence from high school. We've known each other for the past 4 or 5 years, and I'm just so grateful to have had him as a friend over the years. And talking to him, we both wanted this video to be an educational tool and just allowing people to watch this and expand their mindset and listen to different perspectives that we all bring to the table. Because something we both heavily agreed on is the fact that we as humans don't know everything, we have limited knowledge, and that's why we need each other and we need to hear and listen and understand where other people are coming from. Again, I just want to thank Fady for opening up and being willing to share his personal experience with us for the sake of education and helping other people better understand what being a refugee means for him and the ways it has impacted his life in America and the ways that we can continue to educate ourselves as we move forward. All right, without further ado, here's our interview.
All right, hi guys, it is Cambria and I'm here with my good friend Fady. We went to high school together. First of all, thank you for being willing to share your personal experience. I know that it is obviously something personal to you and I don't want to pry too much, so I really genuinely appreciate you being willing to just talk about it and help educate other people out there. So first of all, do you want to tell us a little bit about your story and kind of things that we should know about you as we go into this interview?
Sure. So I was born in Iraq. Obviously, Iraq is a war-torn country. Being born in Iraq, all I experienced from a little kid was bombings, a lot of shootings. It was a lot of terror. When I was about 6 or 7, my house got burned down because my dad is a priest. He's a Catholic priest. And the place we lived in, it was a Muslim concentrated place. And the fundamentalists, I want to emphasize that it wasn't any type of Muslims. They were fundamentalists. They were indoctrinated. They weren't just regular Muslims. They did not like Christians. They prosecuted Christians, and they definitely wanted us out. Our house got burned down. I remember one time I was outside of my balcony and I see fire, and I asked my mom, I'm like, "What is that?" And we kind of joked about it, and we thought it was just people cooking, but then we realized that our house was on fire. So that was the beginning of it, and I was 6. And after that, we received terror threats. We received a lot of bombing threats that they'll bomb our house or they'll kill us if we didn't move. Ever since we got those, we obviously had to flee. We went to Turkey. We fled through Germany. Then we eventually arrived here, 2008.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I know you shared a little bit with me about what the process was like to come to the US, and how would you kind of maybe more like the legal process of being like a refugee and finding integration is kind of like the buzzword around that. What was that process like for you?
So I came here through the United Nations. I have to admit that my process was a little bit easier than others, and I'll explain why in a second. We applied through a program in the United Nations that eventually helped us move over here. What the process was is that we had to prove that we were being discriminated against, that we were being threatened due to the prosecution going on in Iraq. As we applied, we kind of got approved. We had to go through Turkey because Iraq wouldn't facilitate our departure, basically, because I actually don't know why, but through going through Turkey, we had to wait a year process. But I need to emphasize that this year process was actually, for us, it was quicker than others. For example, my cousins, it took them 5 years for them to get their okay to come to the United States. A reason why ours was a little bit faster is because my dad is a Catholic priest, and I had relatives in the United States. So if you don't have a relative in the United States that will take you in, it's almost impossible to come to the United States. But through those two things, my dad being a religious figure and my auntie actually living here and having us over or approving our application, we expedited our process, and we came here through a year through going to Turkey. And being in Turkey, that was a mess, because in Turkey they didn't like Iraqis, they didn't like Christians. So over there a lot of bad things happened for a whole year. They actually actively tried to keep us there. I saw the airplane I was supposed to get on to the United States leave in front of my eyes, and that was kind of a sad story. But after a year of that, we finally made it out to the United States, and we're all good.
Well, first of all, again, thank you for sharing that with me. Really, like, I obviously can't understand any of that, like, personally, so I appreciate you being willing to open up and, like, share that experience. So another question I have for you is, obviously right now, immigration is a very, like, hot topic in politics and the media. What are some of the, like, biggest misconceptions in the media, and, like, what would you say to someone to kind of challenge those beliefs that, like, are being portrayed in our country, especially right now?
Oh my God. The most common misconception is that the refugees are the terrorists, but it's like we're fleeing the terrorism as well. As a kid, I'm pretty sure you know that I got called a terrorist a lot. There was a lot of 9/11 jokes going around in middle school, high school, and it's just not true. As a refugee, we are fleeing the terrorism. We had no other choice. We couldn't stay. It was either you stay in the country or you die. I came up close to a lot of death encounters, I guess, if you may. It's not a pretty sight. And it's not only the Christians. Even if you're a Muslim, you still had those death threats. You still had those division between the different sects of Islam. So I think the biggest misconception is that we're terrorists, or we're here to, conduct some conspiracy and take down the United States. We're not. We're actually the most patriotic people that I know are usually refugees. I see that a lot of people that are born here, they usually just, criticize the United States. But as a refugee, I'm very proud of the United States. And I usually tell people, like, you have no idea what living somewhere else is. This is an amazing country. And yeah, I just think that people think that we're not patriotic is kind of insane, because I love this country. Although I still want to fix it, I still want to go out and improve our society. Just because I'm from somewhere else doesn't mean I do not want to help this current society I live in. I have fully assimilated. I still speak Arabic, but I prefer speaking English. I think in English. So, I'm a full American. That's what I would say.
Yeah. And even, like, in high school, I know, like, definitely I've heard, like, the jokes too, and, like, all how people can kind of not realize that can be offensive. What do you feel like kind of about, like, the rhetoric around the word refugee? Or, like, do you feel like it's a
Mm.
label? Do you feel like, I don't know. I don't know if that really makes sense, but
You
I don't know
know,
if you answer that.
I could answer that. I never thought of myself as a refugee. Like maybe my parents did, maybe, but I still don't. When we came here, we kind of day one we stepped in America, we thought we were American. It was so impossible to reach here that as soon as we set here, we kind of like totally throw ourselves into the American culture. When I went to elementary school, the first day, no one spoke my language. I had to completely learn all the, how to use the bathroom. I had to learn my yeses, my nos. So the rhetoric, I mean, you've seen Fox News and even on like CNBC and all the giant media corporations, the rhetoric that we are, we came here for our own gain, and we do want to live a better life. My parents wanted for us to live a better life. But the rhetoric that we're sucking blood out of society is insane. Every day I think about how I can help my society, how I can help my community. So I think the rhetoric is kind of misconstrued, especially with our president now. But, living in California, it's such a diverse place that I felt welcomed. But I bet somebody who moves to other places might not have had that same experience. So I feel fortunately lucky, but I can imagine that others did not experience my luck.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair assessment. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't know. Maybe a question like, have I ever been discriminated against in the United States? Maybe.
Yes. Have you
Um,
ever been discriminated against in the United States?
yes, I remember a story maybe when I had a soccer game at a different high school that I will not name, and we I just remember everyone in that bus was a different color than white. We're all brown, black. We looked like a melting pot. And it was so weird because when we got off the bus in that certain high school, everyone was white. And I just remember people were looking at us like we were monkeys. Like they've never seen such a diverse color. And I don't know if it was like ill intended or they just never seen our colors before, but you know, the stares, I felt stigmatized from their stares. And you know, I could deal with it, but I can imagine others that don't have my coping strategies that maybe can't deal with it, or maybe they might misinterpret it. But for me, I like the globalization of America. I like that's not the right word, the
That makes sense.
the melting pot, right? The melting pot of America, because you won't find that anywhere else. If you go to Europe, it's more homogeneous. We're very heterogeneous in America, and I love that. I can't imagine living somewhere else. And as a refugee, if there's anything I can put out or say to the mainstream media is that love the mainstream media. I want to add to it. I just think that what the president nowadays is what he's saying, maybe not even directly towards me, but even toward like the Hispanic community or the Latin community, is just false. We know a lot of great Mexican friends. That's all my friends are. It's ridiculous, and I'm pretty sure you do too. So I don't know. We live in a strange time.
Yeah. And it's definitely interesting that like the community like we've grown up in like here in like Spring Valley is so much more diverse than other communities, and just hearing all the rhetoric and then knowing that it's not that way. I
Mm.
don't know.
How did you so as a kid, how were you influenced by the media toward like looking at refugees? I know that you've always been pretty open-minded, but do you think that the media's influence on people like us, did that have an effect on how you viewed me personally, or maybe other people in
That's a
high
good
school or middle
question.
school?
I need to think about this. You're like reverse interviewing me.
Reverse interviewing, I know,
I
huh?
love it. Yeah, I think definitely it was when I got to high school and started taking like AP classes and learning more about like world history and like politics, and having those conversations and realizing that like the media can definitely misportray a lot of people, kind of being like, okay, but we're all just humans, like we're all just people
Yeah,
wanting like
I
being,
was all different
yeah,
cultures.
so many different backgrounds, and just like being friends with people first and being like, okay, like we're all humans. I don't get why this is so like politicized. I was probably like friends with you first before I started realizing more about like refugees and like being more aware of that, and like being like, okay, but like I have friends who are from that background and that's not at all like
We're not
true.
different, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, reverse
that
interview.
No, that does. I just think that a lot of people like didn't even know where Iraq is. Like I don't even think people understand the difference between what Iraq is and what Iran is. Like people used to think I was from Iran when I said I'm from Iraq, and I just think that it's not only that the media is portraying us wrong. We don't have a voice in the media. I think more now we do more. I actually don't know. I think we do with the whole protest going on. I feel like we're getting somewhere, but yeah, I just think as a high schooler, me, I interacted with my peers. People didn't know where other countries were. Like people didn't know where Africa was, which I was like bamboozled. Like, well, really, you don't know where all this is? But then being from somewhere, I got to bring my education and give it to other people and tell them about other places other than the United States. And I just think that that's huge, that Americans to know where other places are, to know how other cultures are.
And I think definitely one of like the main reasons I'm making this is because I know there's a lot of people who don't really have a better understanding than what they read in the news or see on TV or hear in like politics. And I think it's definitely so important like to educate ourselves on different perspectives and different backgrounds. And that's why I'm so like thankful that you're like willing to reach out and like share. And what you said about bringing your perspective and your background and your experience to the US, like it's so valuable. And so that's why I'm very
And
thankful. Yeah.
you don't, when people bring their values, it doesn't mean that you have to accept it. I love being challenged. I love when people disagree with me. I love when I have to prove myself to other people, when I have to bring evidence and data and support my logic onto why I reach certain conclusions. It's just that you have to be respectful of other people's mindsets. And I feel like a lot of it right now is we're being politicized and polarized. People that are on one side of the spectrum go further down the spectrum. I think we should focus more on finding a certain meeting point and going off based of that. So it's not a black or white situation. It's not that it's either like open borders or closed borders. It's just that there's a meeting point that, yeah, we want a national security to be implemented, but we're known for bringing people in. This country was built on other people built this country. And because other people built this country, we have to keep that tradition going. It's in our culture, it's in our traditions. Although it wasn't a good start, we just have to get on the right track of history and build that new track. It's called brain gain. We learned that in AP geography, I think, where when you have people move to America, you're also importing their intellect. You're importing their new generations that will go to schools, that will go to Harvard and Stanford and obtain law degrees and medical degrees. You're creating a smarter generation by having various people come into one place. Without that, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And I don't see why we should stop. Dude, that's number one point. Like, people get too comfortable in their own ideas, and if you don't break out of that bubble and you don't become uncomfortable, you do have to feel uncomfortable at a certain point. So a lot of times, like when I hear other perspectives, I'm like itching to tell my perspective, but then I have to like wind back and listen to others and understand that I'm not right most of the time. We're very, as smart as humans are, we're still very dumb. And we have to work on being better humans throughout our lives. And I appreciate you doing that, because that's it. That's all humans need to do. Respect other people's, opinions and thoughts.
Yeah. I
Oh,
love
I'm sorry. I just realized I was wearing a USA shirt, soccer shirt. Perfect shirt for this interview.
There you go. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that's super great. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for watching. I'm also going to include some Instagram pages that do an amazing job of highlighting refugee experiences through refugee eyes. One of the accounts, I actually got the opportunity to listen to a webinar with the founder, and he calls it Through Striver's Eyes. And his goal is to represent refugees in the media through their perspective and their lenses instead of the opposite way, because oftentimes refugees in the media can be dehumanized, misconstrued as their image, and very narrowly limited to the labels that media assigns them. I also want to highlight this other account, Meet a Refugee, who is doing similar work in helping to lift up refugee voices and background stories to provide a better understanding for those of us out there on social media and just in general media as we move forward with our work and being better humans and just learning to understand and listen to one another. Again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And this week, don't forget to continue to educate yourself and listen to other people's stories, backgrounds, and perspectives. Thank you.